Sometimes it happens player to player.
A viral clip of Luka Dončić ignoring JJ Redick's fist bump exploded across social media, and within hours, reports claimed he issued an ultimatum to the Lakers: fire the coach or I quit. But the real story behind this moment connects to a pattern that has already destroyed one franchise: the sideline blow-up that broke the internet. On February 28, 2026, inside a packed arena with the Los Angeles Lakers cruising to a comfortable 129-101 blowout victory over the Golden State Warriors, something happened that had absolutely nothing to do with the final score, but everything to do with the future of the Los Angeles Lakers franchise. The game was already decided, the outcome was never in doubt, but what unfolded on that bench in the third quarter would ripple through the NBA media landscape for weeks to come and raise questions that the Lakers organization still has not been able to answer. Luka Dončić got subbed out by head coach JJ Redick. Redick extended a fist bump toward his star player, a simple routine gesture of encouragement that coaches give players 100 times over the course of a single season, and Luka brushed past without acknowledging it. What happened next was captured on camera, uploaded to social media by fan accounts, and within 48 hours had been viewed by over 2.7 million people. Redick did not let the moment slide. He confronted Dončić right there on the bench, in front of teammates, in front of cameras, in front of every single person watching. The audio was transcribed by accounts across the internet, and it painted a picture that Lakers fans were absolutely not prepared for. Redick asking Dončić what his problem was, Dončić denying anything was wrong, and Redick responding with words that do not exactly belong in a family-friendly coaching manual. The NBA internet was completely on fire, and what made the flames spread even faster and burn even hotter was the fact that this was not the first time something like this had happened with Luka Dončić, not even close. Because here's the thing about Luka that the casual fan does not always fully understand or appreciate. The media scrutiny that follows him everywhere is not random. It is not unfair targeting. It is the natural and inevitable consequence of being one of the most talented and most polarizing players on the entire planet. As one analyst explained on a Lakers-focused show,
Luka also gets held to a high standard because he's Luka.
And that standard does not exist in a vacuum. It exists because of the very specific history that Dončić carries with him everywhere he goes. A history of coaching conflicts that stretches all the way back to his very first days in the NBA and has left a trail of broken relationships and fractured organizations in its wake. Dončić was drafted 3rd overall in 2018, traded from Atlanta to Dallas on draft night, and handed the keys to the entire franchise almost immediately under head coach Rick Carlisle. Carlisle publicly praised the young Slovenian, comparing him to Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. He gave Dončić total offensive freedom from his very first professional game on American soil. But behind the scenes, problems were already starting to form in ways that nobody outside the organization could see or even begin to imagine. The first real flashpoint involved Dennis Smith Jr., Dončić, and Smith had formed a genuine friendship during their shared rookie season, but Carlisle and the front office viewed Smith as expendable. In a team meeting during that first year, Carlisle accused Smith of being jealous of Dončić, a claim that multiple players in the room found completely baseless and needlessly divisive. Dončić saw it as a deliberate attempt to turn him against his own friend, and it planted the very first seeds of distrust between the young star and the man who was supposed to be guiding his career. Things only escalated from that point forward. Carlisle publicly berated Salah Mejri, a former Real Madrid teammate who had served as something of a mentor and big brother figure to Dončić during his adjustment to life in the NBA. The release of veteran JJ Barea in 2020 removed yet another stabilizing voice from an increasingly fractured locker room. And by January 2021, the tension between Dončić and Carlisle spilled directly onto the court when Dončić yelled at his coach during a game, "Who's in charge, you or Bob?" referring to analytics consultant Haralabos Vulgaris, whose growing influence within the organization had become a source of serious irritation for multiple players on the roster. Carlisle resigned after the 2021 playoffs. He was not technically fired, but sources indicated that the accumulated distrust between coach and star made any kind of continuity completely impossible. A planned trip to Slovenia to repair the relationship with Dončić was canceled at the player's own request. The message was crystal clear without ever being spoken out loud. Colin Cowherd framed this recurring pattern in the simplest possible terms on his show when discussing the current state of the Lakers.
And when you watch Luke on a nightly basis, do you think sometimes when he kind of mails it in's the wrong word, he becomes a little dispassionate.
That dispassion, that ability to just emotionally disconnect from the game and from the people around him in the middle of live competition, is at the very root of every coaching conflict Dončić has ever been involved in throughout his entire career. And it is precisely the pattern that makes that viral sideline moment in 2026 so incredibly loaded with meaning and so deeply unsettling for the Lakers organization. Because Luka Dončić has never once issued a public ultimatum about any coach he has played for. That is simply not how he operates. But coaches who clash with him tend to find themselves on the way out, one way or another. And that history is exactly why a 10-second clip of him brushing past JJ Redick's fist bump sent shockwaves through the entire NBA media landscape and had millions of people asking the same terrifying question: is this happening all over again? The Dallas wreckage, Luka left behind. Jason Kidd was supposed to be the solution to everything that had gone wrong with Rick Carlisle. A Hall of Famer with Slovenian ties through his wife, Kidd was hired in 2021 specifically because the Mavericks believed he could connect with Dončić on a personal and cultural level in ways that Carlisle never could. And for a while, it actually worked. The locker room vibe improved dramatically. Communication between the coaching staff and the star player got significantly better. And in 2022, Dallas rode Dončić's brilliance all the way to the Western Conference Finals, with Luka averaging 31.7 points per game in the playoffs. But beneath the surface of that success, the exact same fault lines were forming all over again. This time, the conflict was not about authority or analytics consultants. It was about something far more personal: Dončić's body and his daily habits. Kidd began publicly critiquing Dončić's conditioning and his constant interactions with referees. He repeatedly urged Dončić to stop lobbying calls, making it clear that the constant arguing was hurting the team's focus and leaving Dončić consistently out of position on the defensive end. And the weight issue became absolutely impossible to ignore. Dončić's ideal playing weight sat around 245 pounds, but he regularly fluctuated between 250 and 255, with reports placing him as high as the 260s at various points during the season. A team source expressed outright disbelief. Who gains weight during the season when you're playing 40 minutes a game? The physical decline was not just a number on a scale. It showed up directly in Dončić's game in ways that were absolutely impossible to miss for anyone paying close attention. As one analyst pointed out while discussing the current version of Luka on the Lakers,
kind of accentuated some of these warts. Doesn't have as much burst going to the basket as he used to. It's crazy. You look back with Luka towards his early career,
and that loss of explosiveness was not just noticeable, it was dramatic and measurable in real time.
He used to get a dunk every couple weeks. Now it's like he might get one a season. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference in the level of explosive.
And that physical decline fed directly into the coaching tension, because every single time the Mavericks tried to address Dončić's conditioning through organizational changes in staff and structure, Dončić pushed back and resisted those changes. Then the Mavericks started making moves that hit Dončić where it hurt the absolute most: his inner circle of trusted people. In 2023, Director of Player Health Casey Smith was fired. After the 2023-24 season, strength coach Jeremy Holsopple and therapist Casey Spangler were let go as well. All three had close personal relationships with Dončić. His reaction was as blunt as it gets: they get rid of everybody I like. Dončić's response was to take matters into his own hands entirely. He hired his own personal body team from Real Madrid: strength coach Andrzej Maciek, physiotherapist Javier Barrio Calvo, and nutritionist Lucia Almendros, paying every single one of them out of his own pocket. This immediately created communication breakdowns and serious friction between his personal staff and the Mavericks' in-house training personnel, adding yet another layer of dysfunction to an already deeply strained situation that was rapidly approaching its breaking point. And then came the trade that absolutely nobody in the basketball world saw coming. On the night of February 1st, 2025, the Mavericks traded Luka Dončić to the Los Angeles Lakers in a 3-team deal involving the Utah Jazz. Dallas received Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick in return. GM Nico Harrison explained the move by stating that he believed defense wins championships, and that Davis aligned with the team's timeline to compete both now and in the future. But multiple reports told a much deeper and more troubling story behind the stated basketball reasoning. The impending Supermax max extension, 5 years, $346 million, hung over the franchise like a dark cloud that would not go away. The Mavericks were genuinely wary of committing that astronomical sum to a player who carried real questions about his conditioning, his defensive commitment, and his long-term durability, and the manner in which the trade was executed only made the situation significantly uglier than it needed to be. Harrison completed the deal without informing either Kidd or Dončić beforehand. Dončić cut off all contact with Harrison entirely the moment he found out, and his father, Sasha, went public with his frustrations, telling media, "You traded him, stand by your actions, but don't look for excuses." The organizational fallout was swift and devastating. Assistant coach Marko Milic left immediately, unwilling to stay without the player he had followed to Dallas. Player development coach God Shamgod departed after the season, publicly exposing what he described as deep dysfunction within the organization. There were organized protests calling for Harrison's firing. Reddit threads labeled the transaction the worst trade in NBA history. And when Anthony Davis suffered yet another injury post-trade and Kyrie Irving tore his ACL, the Mavericks season collapsed entirely into rubble, fast-tracking a full rebuild around 2025. Number 1 overall pick Cooper Flagg. For the Lakers, every major outlet viewed the trade as an absolute masterpiece, graded A+ by CBS Sports. GM Rob Pelinka called Dončić a one-of-a-kind young global superstar. The team posted a 19-12 record immediately after the trade, and respected analyst John Hollinger of The Athletic called the acquisition a no-brainer. But here is what everyone seemed to conveniently forget in all the excitement. Every single issue that destroyed Dončić's relationship with the Dallas Mavericks, the conditioning concerns, the never-ending referee complaints, the coaching friction, the emotional volatility, none of that got left behind in Texas. All of it came to Los Angeles packed right alongside him. And barely a year into the Luka Dončić era, the evidence was already stacking up in deeply troubling ways. On March 8, 2026, during a 110-97 Lakers victory over the New York Knicks, Dončić directed what the NBA officially described as an inappropriate and unprofessional gesture toward a game official. 2 days later, the league fined him $50,000. That fine pushed him to 15 technical fouls on the season, leaving him just one single technical away from an automatic one-game suspension. In the 2023-24 season with Dallas, Dončić had led the entire league with 19 technicals. Colin Cowherd put the number in devastatingly stark perspective on his show.
And now we're a year into Luka. And he's got more technicals than he does defensive stops.
And on the media side, analysts covering the Lakers acknowledged that the criticism surrounding Dončić had at times crossed a line, but they maintained their right and responsibility to hold him to the exact same standard as every other superstar in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I think I made this point before on my show before. I made this point before on this show. I think it has gone too far at times. I think he's become something of a punching bag, especially on like the national shows or some of the debate TV shows.
But that same analyst was equally clear that being critical of a superstar does not mean being unfair to that superstar.
At the same time, I don't think he's above scrutiny or criticism, and
that balance between acknowledging the media pile-on and still holding Dončić accountable for his actual on-court shortcomings is exactly where the Lakers find themselves right now as an organization. Because while the narrative around Luka has at times been toxic and exaggerated beyond all reason, the underlying problems are not manufactured by talking heads looking for clicks. They are real, they are measurable, and they are threatening to completely derail an entire season before the playoffs even begin. Why the Lakers cannot win with this version of Luka. So where does all of this leave the Los Angeles Lakers right now? Before we get into the numbers that expose just how flawed this team really is, it is worth hearing what JJ Redick himself had to say when asked directly about the viral sideline exchange that started this entire firestorm.
Yeah, I didn't think much of it at the time, to be honest with you. I don't think Luka did either. I mean, he and I have a great relationship. I really value our relationship.
He explained that he actively encourages his players to communicate openly with the coaching staff, that disagreements are a natural part of competition, and that the exchange felt completely routine to everyone actually involved in it.
I don't know why it went viral. It felt very normal to me.
Now that sounds like a man who is not remotely worried about losing his job, but whether or not Redick feels secure in his position, the problems facing this Lakers team go far deeper than any single sideline moment or any rumored ultimatum, because the Lakers right now are built around a generational offensive talent who is averaging 32.1 points, 8.4 rebounds, and 9.2 assists per game, numbers that look absolutely spectacular on paper, and a team that is slowly but surely being exposed as one of the most deeply flawed contenders in the entire Western Conference. Colin Cowherd laid out the core problem in the most blunt terms possible on his show.
Is that of the 22 Laker losses, 19 are blowouts. And the team doesn't have a ton of resilience.
19 blowout losses out of 22 total defeats on the season. That number tells you everything about what this Lakers team actually is underneath the highlight reels and the box score numbers. When things start going wrong, they do not dig in. They do not rally. They fold.
And I said, I'm not blaming Luka for everything because he's a gifted offensive player. But you do kind of follow the lead of your guy.
That is the leadership problem distilled into its purest and most unavoidable form. The franchise player sets the emotional tone for the entire roster every single night they step onto the court. And when Luka spends multiple possessions jawing at referees while the opposing team races down the floor for uncontested baskets, that energy does not stay contained to one individual. It infects the entire team from the starters down to the last man on the bench.
Even if LeBron had a bad night, he played his off. I mean, now is different. For 15 years, Kobe, MJ, they had bad shooting nights. They didn't have bad effort nights or bad commitment nights or bad focus nights.
That distinction matters enormously at the highest level of professional basketball. Every great player who has ever played this game has experienced off nights from a shooting standpoint. That is simply the nature of basketball. But the all-time greats, the players who actually hoisted championship trophies and cemented their legacies, never once had nights where they simply stopped caring about the outcome. And the people who cover Dončić every single day have noticed that gap in ways that casual fans simply cannot.
Well, to put it very simply, I think if you talk to anybody who covers the Lakers, who roots for them or watches them very closely, Luka's not the emotional leader of the team.
That assessment is absolutely devastating for any franchise that has built its entire future around this one player. Not because anyone on this planet questions Luka's raw talent, but because at this level of competition, talent without emotional leadership creates a ceiling that no amount of step-back threes or triple-doubles can ever break through.
I would actually argue Luka's ceiling is the highest in the NBA, specifically because he's got that step back three at his size, which is basically unguardable.
The ceiling is absolutely real. When every element of Dončić's game clicks into place simultaneously, there may not be a more dangerous offensive player anywhere in professional basketball. The problem is what happens on the nights when that step back three is not falling and his team needs him to find another way to impact the game.
And to put it very frank, the difference between him and Shea and him and Jokic at this point is Luka is way more prone to bad games.
His floor is simply too low compared to the other elite players at the top of this league. He cannot pressure the rim with explosive drives like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He does not operate consistently in the paint the way Nikola Jokic does. And among every elite player sitting at the top of the league right now, Edwards, Wembanyama, Giannis, Shai, Jokic, Dončić is by far the worst defensive player in that entire group. And another analyst on the media show framed the MVP conversation in terms that cut right to the heart of the accountability question that surrounds Dončić everywhere he goes.
No, the media is not responsible for the fact that Luka hasn't won MVPs. Luka is responsible for the fact that he hasn't won MVPs.
That accountability standard is exactly what separates the genuine contenders from the teams that just look good on paper. And the numbers back up every single word of it in devastating and undeniable fashion.
And that has carried their record. So here's some crazy stats for you, Colin. The Lakers this season, when they play teams in the bottom 10 in point differential, they're 18-2. which is tied with Oklahoma City for the best in the entire NBA.
18-2 against the worst teams in the league. That sounds absolutely phenomenal on the surface until you hear what comes immediately after. 16 wins and 20 losses against everyone who is not in the bottom third of the NBA. A below 500 record against any team with a pulse. And when you narrow the lens even further to examine only games against the top 10 teams in point differential, the picture becomes even more alarming. The Lakers are getting outscored by a staggering 13 points per game in those matchups, which ranks 28th in the entire league. Only the Washington Wizards and Brooklyn Nets have been worse against quality competition this entire season. The blueprint for beating the Lakers has been identified by every good team in the league, and they are all executing it with ruthless, mechanical consistency every time they face Los Angeles. Step 1. Full court ball pressure to generate turnovers, because the Lakers allow 19 points off turnovers per game, the 7th highest rate in the entire NBA. Step 2. Run deep drop coverage to chase Luka and Austin Reeves off the three-point line and funnel them into difficult, contested mid-range shots inside the arc. Step 3. Run on them relentlessly in transition, where the Lakers rank dead last against top 10 teams in cleaning the glass's comprehensive transition defense metric. The analyst laid out exactly what that game plan produces in actual practice on the court. Make them quit.
Pick them up full court, run on them all day, run that deep drop coverage. You're not just going to beat the Lakers, you're going to make them quit and blow them out by 20.
Those 3 words should send a chill down the spine of every single Lakers fan who still believes this team has a realistic shot at a championship. Cowherd drove the comparison home by likening them to the Miami Dolphins, a team that made the playoffs but had absolutely zero chance of winning once they got there. So, after everything we have laid out across the entire length of this story, was there actually an ultimatum? Did Luka Dončić truly look the Lakers in the eye and say, "Fire the coach or I quit"? ESPN's Dave McMenamin confirmed that Redick called the tiff very normal. Dončić himself backed his coach publicly, calling Redick a special kind of coach. No credible source, not ESPN, not CBS Sports, not The Athletic, has confirmed any ultimatum of any kind. The videos that ran those sensational headlines were actually debunking the very claims their own titles were promoting to drive views. So no, there was no ultimatum. The words "fire the coach" or "I quit" were never spoken by Dončić in any setting, public or private, that any credible journalist has been able to verify or confirm. But what there was, and what there very much continues to be, is something potentially far more dangerous for the long-term future of this Lakers franchise than any single quote could ever be. A cornerstone player whose history of coaching conflicts is thoroughly documented across 2 separate organizations. A star whose emotional volatility cost his team on both ends of the floor on a nightly basis. A generational talent whose individual brilliance may ultimately be the very thing that prevents this organization from ever seeing and addressing the deeper structural problems that no amount of individual skill can overcome. The Lakers are projected as a 4 seed in the Western Conference. They will almost certainly make the playoffs, and based on absolutely everything we have seen throughout this entire season, every blowout loss, every transition breakdown, every single game against quality opposition, they will almost certainly be sent home early in a series that is not particularly competitive and not particularly close. Well, that's it for this video, but don't go anywhere because we've got plenty more heat for you. Just tap any of the cards on your screen right now and keep it locked.